I just needed to take a break from making money. And so at the funeral in June, it just like, it occurred to me, am I living for my resume or my eulogy? Like they didn't talk about what my stepdad did in his career or how much money he left behind. Like no one cares. No
Yep.
one talks about that. You just die and you don't take it with you. Like they talked about his service and what a good dad he was and in the church and all that stuff and how he served everyone. And so that was like the real turning point. That June, I said, no more. I have to stop. I have to shake this cycle that I'm in. And so I legitimately did ban myself from making money.
Let's reimagine mom life together. Mama Has Goals is your hub for relatable support and helpful resources that help you fuel yourself alongside motherhood. Your identity is bigger than mom, and whatever your goals are, together we're making them a reality. This is such a powerful conversation about just following your heart and allowing yourself to evolve, that you can be so many different versions of yourself, and there's a place for all of it in your life. And our guest today, Hilary Richards, is a multi-passionate full-time entrepreneur with a mom and 2 kids, 6 and 8 years old, and she's creating her dream life in Windsor, California with her high school sweetheart. She's the founder of She Can Club, which is a women's group in Sonoma County that focuses on planting seeds of possibility in women online and creating in-person events of all different topics to meet women where they're at. Hilary also owns the Clubhouse, which is truly a Barbie dream house in Sonoma County. It's an Airbnb created for women's groups to come from all over to hold retreats, host girls' weekends, and when it's not rented out, she hosts her intimate She Can Club events on the pink couches in this magical home covered in pink paint, murals, and lots of sequins. Now that Hilary has successfully created a local girl gang of her own with hundreds of women participating in her local events over the last 3 years, she's on a mission to teach other women all over the world how to do this for themselves, how to create a for-profit girl gang in their own communities. Hilary is also a business consultant who uses her 20 plus years of corporate and entrepreneurship experience to help coach women on how to grow their own businesses and pursue their dream lives. We will link all of the places down below where you can connect with Hilary, but this conversation just shows you how you can make your vision a part of your life and how the people that you already know or just a quick search away can help you get there. So whatever's on your heart and whatever community you need, this conversation is going to tell you exactly how to get it. If you are a listener and you're trying to decide if you should reach out to someone on Instagram, you should. And our guest today, Hilary, is a prime example of that. I don't know if you remember, Hilary, but when you sent me a message on Instagram when I was doing my launch event, it was just like, hey, you're doing similar things that I want to do. And then we've connected, and it has been such a fun, distant in-person / online friendship since, and such a true testament of how there's room for everyone. You can collaborate and grow together, and it creates these really great friendships that you wouldn't have otherwise. And I know that you have so many of those where you've reached out to people online. But before we get into how you've created this amazing community for yourself and so much others in motherhood and life and business, I want you to take us back because you have a whole past life of successes. Yeah. And I want to take us to high school, Hilary, where you met your now husband and what you guys built together and what the transition out of that was.
Yeah. I'm so glad I slid into your DMs.
Me too.
I wasn't sure. You never know how people are going to react. But I was like, hey, we're doing the same thing. Let's be friends. And it worked. Okay, let's go back to high school, Hilary. So 2004 is when I met my boyfriend / now husband. That's when we started dating. And so it's going to be 20 years now as of July. I quickly got my work permit when I turned 15 and started working for his mom, who sold water meters, which is super random, but she sold water meters to cities all over the state. And that's when I got my first taste of real like entrepreneurship, small business. And I basically just became obsessed with work at a really young age. I graduated high school early so I can work for a year before I go into college. I came home every weekend from San Francisco State, which is like an hour away, so we could work. And then I eventually came right back after a year to Sonoma State so that I can work more, and then got my MBA at night so I can work full time. Oh, I graduated college in 3 years so I can work, and then got my MBA at night so I can work full time during the day. So I was hardcore in the water meter industry for 12 straight years. And my husband was too. He eventually left to become a teacher and follow his dreams. And I stayed behind and was the breadwinner. But that's where I learned all things small business, like we started this branch up in Santa Rosa from her kitchen table. And so we were like, start a warehouse and a filing system and hiring people and stocking inventory and just HR laws. And I went eventually started opening branches in other states in Tennessee and Arizona and Southern California and helped in Denver. And it was just like this crash course in business because it was a very small business, but we were doing like 20 million a year out of our branch of like 5 people. And so I just learned it all and I just absorbed it and I just loved it. All I ever did was work. Luckily, I was still young and had the capacity to do that. But through that, I learned a lot of business skills and I, full circle, we'll talk about later, but basically became addicted to making money. So my self-worth was tied up in my net worth and that's all I knew. There was money all around me. There was millions of dollars, millionaires all around me. And that's what my goal in life was. So when they eventually got bought out by a publicly traded company, I lost my job after 12 years. And I was like, holy crap, my entire identity since 15 years old is wrapped up in water meters. Of all things, the plumbing industry, where I was often the only woman in the room. That's when I got a taste of freedom and entrepreneurship. And I said, now what do I do with my life? And that was like the turning point of how I became an entrepreneur when I had some freedom.
And where did motherhood come into this? Were you a mom while you were still in that role, or did you become a mom after?
Yeah, I got laid off in 2017 and my son was born in March of 2016. So he was about a year and a half, my first child. And man, like my biggest regret is going back to work after 6 weeks and thinking that was totally normal and just shutting my office door and just pumping and having a teenage nanny at home while I just went back to work because they needed me. And I didn't even consider taking 3 months off or even 2 months off. I just went straight back.
Was that self-inflicted or was that pressure from work? Because in my story, it was self-inflicted for the most part. There's this societal pressure and this thing that you feel like you're supposed to do. But what I noticed when I stepped back, for me, so much of it was self-imposed. Was that your case too?
Yeah, I think yes and no. It was like, it wasn't a financial decision by any means. It was like, how are they going to function without me? And this new company had already bought us. It was pressure from both sides. And that's ego. They're not going to be able to survive without me. I can't leave them for that long. I'm running this whole place. They look to me for everything.
Lo and behold, a year later, you're laid off. So once you were laid off and you had your son at home, what was that transition into, okay, what do I want to do now? And then having your daughter. What did life of mom, Hilary, business owner look like then? Were you just lost what to do?
Yeah, no, I remember like sitting on my back porch, like looking at jobs like on Indeed, and we live in Sonoma County, so it's all wine. I'm like, I don't drink wine. I've never taken one sip of wine. What am I going to do in Sonoma County? All I know is plumbing. I can't believe I just wasted my entire life learning one skill, and now what do I do? And I had been trying to get pregnant for maybe 6 months at that point, just tracking. I got laid off. My last day was September 15th and September 17th is when I conceived. It was like, you can tell the stress in my body was finally released and I finally was able, that's what I credit it to. So yeah, I don't know. I got a severance and I was fine financially, but it was in my head. It was, I need to make money. All I do, I make money. That's what Hilary does. And so I did feel the pressure, but then I started getting ad targeted for entrepreneurship and coaching. And I'm like, wait, is that possible? It's like in the back of my mind. I think I knew I was never going to go back to work. So I started doing virtual assisting and then I got pregnant and I was super tired and I didn't know I was pregnant, obviously for the first few weeks. And I was like secretly sleeping while my husband was at school during the day, like taking naps. So I'm man, I'm a bad entrepreneur. I just sleep all day. But yeah, I don't remember when we decided I was just going to try this, but I eventually became a virtual assistant and took on clients and just billed them hourly. And one of my clients was a 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and they're independently owned franchises. And so I was helping with payroll and stuff. And at that point I was pregnant. He eventually said, can you come work full time? I could really use an operations manager. And I was like, I'm pregnant. And this time I am taking 3 full months off of work. And he still hired me. Nice. And that's how I got sucked back into corporate. But I got that taste of freedom for a few months between like September and December, basically. And that never left. So I switched over to 1-800-GOT-JUNK. So now I'm back in male dominated industry, literally the only woman because my mother-in-law wasn't even in the
Yeah.
room with me. Work boots, collared shirts tucked into Carhartt pants. And that was great for the season I was in. They're super, my daughter never took a bottle. So we had to have her come breastfeed every 3 hours. And nannies drove her to me. I drove home. It was the best case scenario for what I was doing at the time. But
also, I feel like we just need to like repeat that because my second didn't take a bottle well. And I wish more parents talked about this because it is really stressful if you can't like feed your baby without you being physically present. And more people should talk about like the stress of that, but also not to scare people. Like, I don't want it to be a fear thing, but I do think that it is worth acknowledging that two things. One, this happens and we feel you and it's hard. And two, you can make it work. Like you said, you found a solution. And I think it's really important to like help people understand like there are solutions when you find yourself in this situation. Being solution oriented is like the number one entrepreneur skill. And not even entrepreneur, I should say, the number one life skill, motherhood skill. Like being solution oriented is how you survive any of the above. And so I think that's just like really worth noting. So you find yourself in this role, you're making it work. You're in this role for how long?
Let's see. So I started, let's say January of 2018 with them up until the day the pandemic.
You're with them for like 2 years and then the pandemic starts. And were you laid off? Was this your choice to leave?
It was more like my boss and I, who's one of my best friends now, we looked at each other. I don't know if this business exists. And I was like, my preschool is just shut down, but my husband's still a teacher. I don't think I can work anymore. I remember that afternoon when all the news was coming out and we're like, what are we going to do? And it was just a mutual, like,
we're not sure how we're going to pay you and you're not sure how you're going to work, and it dissolves. And a lot of people were in that situation. They were like, my life is going to change overnight. But then it was this weird questioning what was going to happen over and over again. So then you went back to the drawing board of, okay, now what can I do? Because the thing that I know about you is you are such a good and present mom, but you're not an all mom person. Like, you want to be able to do your own things. You have so many things that you're doing alongside motherhood, which pretty much everyone listening to this is the same way. But you have the desire to always be doing something else. And your kids are in school now. So you also have all day that they're at school, but you want to be doing something that's Hilary, that's this personal part of you. And was that always the case? Have you always been interested in making sure that you have something alongside motherhood? Or during these journeys, did you ever have a place that you were like, especially when they were really little, they were like, I just want to be just mom. I want to be all encompassing on mom.
Yeah. Back when I had corporate jobs, all I ever wanted was just to be a mom. And I just wanted out. My husband's a teacher. He was with the kids all summer long. I just envied them so much that they just got freedom. I look back at like journals and stuff, and I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. But when the pandemic happened and I had a 2 and 4-year-old at home, it took me a week to figure out there's no way. I cannot do this. Like, these women who can and who desire, like, who are in it and still want it, are absolute superheroes. Like, this is by far the hardest job I've ever had. And I used to work like 15-hour days every day for 10 years. Like, I can't do this. My brain does not allow me to sit on the floor and play pretend. But that's all I ever wanted. And then I was like, crap. Because now it's a reality and I don't want this.
And that happens a lot on both sides, right? Like, you think you want to be making all this money and then you do. It's one of those, the grass is always greener on the other side type of things. And so the pandemic happened, you realize you do have to be home. You realize that you also don't really want to just be home. And so what was your next step into figuring out what you wanted to do there?
Yeah, I was really into digital marketing. Like, I just love social media and marketing and all that stuff. And I had been talking to an orthodontist friend already about doing marketing for them. So I basically jumped into digital marketing and marketing in general as an independent contractor. And so I was still with my kids full time during the day. I have a lot of privilege when I say full time. That means till 2 when my husband gets off work. Like, I know a lot of husbands and partners work till late at night. So I'd be with my kids during the day and then do marketing of any kind. So I was doing social media management for my realtor and hairstylist and outreach and just helping people build websites. And so I still hadn't shaken the concept of my net worth is my self-worth. And so that was still ingrained in me. Like, I need to make $10,000 a month. What am I doing? I'm just sitting here all day. I'm not making any money. And there was no pressure from anybody in my life. That was strictly just my
Self-inflicted.
trauma from from the water meter days of just, I have to make money. And so that's what I started doing. And so I say that's 2020, and I was doing that till 2021. And I was still feeling like I was working for other people, and there's deadlines and people want more, and I wasn't charging enough and all that. And so that led me to 2021, March of 2021. My stepdad got diagnosed with cancer. And then, like, holy crap, my entire world stopped. Wait, no, that's not real. There's no way he's going to die. There's no way. And 56 days later, he died. And so that was absolutely like the worst time of my life. I know everyone has their own version of hard. Like, some people might lose their spouse in a car accident and not be able to say goodbye. But that was my worst moments. And so at that point is when I was spiraling. I had to tell myself that I was banning myself from making money, basically. I still work for the orthodontist as an independent contractor, and that was fine. I love them, and there was no pressure from them, but the pressure of like me hustling and finding my own money and clients and all that, it just had to stop. I just needed to take a break from making money. And so at the funeral in June, it just it occurred to me, am I living for my resume or my eulogy? Like, they didn't talk about what my stepdad did in his career, or how much money he left behind. Like, no one cares. No one talks about that. You just die and you don't take it with you. Like, they talked about his service and what a good dad he was, and in the church and all that stuff, and how he served everyone. And so that was like the real turning point. That June, I said, no more. I have to stop. I have to shake this cycle that I'm in. And so I legitimately did ban myself from making money. And I told myself I need till October to not worry about money and to not not care, just live my life and not care. No pressure at all.
And so what advice would you give to someone that can't do that? They're not in a financial place that they can't focus on making money, but they do need that mental clarity break and that kind of healing space to be able to figure out what's next. What advice would you give that person?
Okay, so the advice that my therapist during that time gave me was the mantra, I am safe. I think it was just a state of panic. Of the definition of safe means something different to everybody. And maybe that's not the word that feels good to certain people, but just like, if I pause and just do what's in front of me, not more, will I lose my home? No. Can I feed my kids? Yes. What's the worst that could happen, or the best that could happen, if I just pause and be okay with what's in front of me and stop hustling for more?
And I think what's so important about what you're saying is it doesn't mean you stop necessarily. It means that you aren't going for more in that moment. So for someone that's maybe in a job and they're feeling this way, it doesn't mean quit your job and stop doing everything tomorrow. It means maybe just sit for a little bit. Don't work for that promotion. Don't try to find that side hustle right now. Don't, build more and more into your life if you're not sure now's a good time for it. But it doesn't necessarily mean take away what you already have. It's just be safe where you are and pause. And so I think that's so important, because sometimes we do need to add things. Sometimes we need to remove things. And sometimes, like what you're saying, it's let's just stay status quo for a little bit, which I think is really important.
Yeah, because I had never done that. Like, my list of accomplishments every year was like, can I get another degree? Or it was always, I had a note, and this year I did this, and this year we saved 6 figures, and this year we bought another house, and this year we got my MBA, and this year I bought another house, and then we paid cash for a car. Like that's how I tracked my achievements. And it was just all money and just high stakes. I was just raising the bar every single year without recognizing everything that I did have.
How would you reframe that for your life right now? If you were to make a similar list, what are some things, maybe like 3 to 5 things that you could rattle off that you would consider achievements that are through a completely different lens over the last year or so that you've had?
That's a great question, because someone recently told me to recognize that, because it is so hard not to get caught up in what my business is doing or whatever. But it's like, I have 2 children who are thriving, and they're bilingual in Spanish now, and I get to pick them up from school every day and drop them off every day. And that was my ideal life. Looking back in my journals, I get to pick up and take my kids to school every day. That's easily the best thing that's ever happened to me. And it's been 4 years, and I'm still like, oh my God. But if I was searching for more, might take that away from me. And then the grass is always greener. And my husband, like, just the relationships that I have in my life with my family, but also in my business now, which we haven't gotten to, of just how many lives have I changed is my metric now. How many women can I serve? The term is serve. And so if I serve first, then I trust that finances will happen at some point when I absolutely need them to.
And I love that you've taken the time to at least acknowledge a couple of those things, right? Because it is so easy to say these are things, because you're still doing that. You're still growing for those more like measurable things. But sometimes pulling it back and saying like, the successes I've had this last year is I got to do these things with my family. I got to do this myself with my friends, or this was a fun memory. Those are sometimes not the things that we measure when we look at our year successes. But to your point, at the end of the day, those are the things that matter. And so you found yourself taking this pause. And I want to talk about from that pause to the moment that the words "she can" became part of your terminology. Fill in the blanks there.
Okay. So someone gave me a book called Signs by Laura Lynn Jackson, I think it is. And I didn't believe in, I wasn't very religious. I didn't really know what God was or whatever. I was grieving hard and I was like, I need something. So anyway, someone gave me the book called Signs, and that teaches you, like, if you want to talk to your spirit team, like the people who have passed, you have to talk out loud. So I used to like lock myself in the bathroom, and I called them toilet talks with Rob, where I would like talk out loud, sit on the toilet and talk to him. And like, what do I do? Help me, guide me. There was one night, I don't remember when, maybe July, probably like a month in, where I just said, like, what can I do to serve this world? Because that was the word that I associated with him, just for who he was. So that's what I was like, your legacy was service. I'm going to take on that legacy now to honor you. And so what can I do to serve? And so one toilet talk with Rob, I'm sitting there and it just downloads. It all just came to me, and I have the note still on my phone. And if I look at the note, it just said, I don't think the name didn't come to me, but creating this women's group and the masterminds and the retreats, and this is all these events, and just the whole business plan just came to me in my head. So I'm like rapidly typing as fast as I could. I was like, that's it. That was always the dream. Yeah. I used to have the dream of starting Mama Can Too. So like I even got, nothing even existed, but I like had a sweatshirt made that said Mama Can Too. That was going to be my women's group, but that was just only a dream. And that was years prior to this. So I came up with this women's group idea, and then my business brain kicked in of what's it going to be named? How's it going to be? How are people going to feel part of this bigger movement? And just the strategy behind the name. So eventually I came up with the name She Can Club. Although I had banned myself from starting new businesses and making money, which this didn't make money back then, but I did it anyway because it was just so strong on my heart. I was like, I need to do this. And so She Can Club was created, and I launched it. I kept getting angel number signs, like 911 was the number I kept seeing. And I was like, God, is something bad going to happen? Like we associate 911 or 911, we associate that bad. Eventually, after the website was made and all that, I realized the night of September 10th that I was ready to launch She Can Club. And I was like, oh, I'm going to launch it on September 11th. That's what I've been seeing 9/11 for the past few months. That's what it was. So yeah, that's how She Can Club was born. It was born out of just the focus of how can I serve women?
So from the time you got that download with Toilet Talks with Rob into September 11th, what was the time span there from the moment you got the idea till you took action?
July to September.
July to September. So that's fast. And I think that's such an important thing to talk about, because there's this saying like fail fast. And I don't know if you've heard that, Hilary, but the concept is that you learn by failing or taking risks or moving forward. And you haven't failed, but I think that being okay with failing is how you move forward. And you say like, well, I'm just going to try it out. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to move forward. And that is how you create those successes, because you just keep moving forward. And now this has been 2 years since that date. Coming up on 2 years?
Coming up on 3 years. September.
Coming up on 3 years.
2021.
I know that you've impacted hundreds, probably thousands of women through this community. And that has given you opportunity for yourself, for your friends, beyond that. And thank goodness you took that leap. Yeah. What would you say has been the biggest benefit for you and your family for you taking that leap? It may be direct or indirect, but what has come from that, from you saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go in on my passion, really, not even as much as a business at that point, to connect women? What has come out of it for you as a person or a mom that you're just like, thank goodness I did that?
Yeah. I think that I finally feel like I've figured out what my dream was. Like I used to come home from work and cry every night into my husband. And I'm like, I don't know what my worth is. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not going to be doing this forever. He's like, you need to either hire a business coach or a therapist. I can't do this every single night. You need to take action on these dreams of yours. Because that had been the concept of coaching and helping women and all that has been on my heart for a long time. I just never knew how to make it a reality. So the fact that I finally found the thing after so many attempts at entrepreneurship, whether it's little kids Play-Doh busy boxes or wood sign, custom wood wedding signs or virtual assisting, like all these different things, I proudly failed at all of those.
But you didn't fail. I mean, I know well enough to know they weren't failures. You just realized they weren't the thing. And so you would move from that thing to something else. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you failed. And if you did fail, that for anyone listening, that's okay too. But it doesn't always look like a failure. I think that's the tricky part. Sometimes you just have to move from it.
Yeah. No, I love it. I like encourage people, quit. Fail fast, quit fast. If it doesn't feel good to you, if you're not like, I love this is everything to me, just move on. You tried it and you learned something, move on to the next thing. There's something, it's coming. It all happens at the right time. But like, I had to learn all those other things and maybe build some email lists with the busy boxes and all these little things that I tried. I had to learn digital marketing for that business to benefit me today. And so I finally found my thing. And I think that's like a weight off my shoulders when I was struggling so hard with what's my purpose here on earth. Not that it's been easy by any means, but
I was going to say there's still hard days, right? Even when it's your thing, you're like, you're still running a business or working on something you've never done before. You're being challenged in a new area. It's going to be hard. And it's not always going to be like, this feels so good.
Right.
But it's this feeling that I don't think you can really explain until you've been there of like, I know I'm meant to. I don't really know why. I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing or why, but I just have this feeling I'm supposed to keep going. And those other things will not have that feeling for you. Right. And I think that's the difference is when you can feel it in you that you're supposed to push through those hard days. This happens in motherhood, right? You have hard days and you just know you're supposed to keep going, but it doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy. It's always going to feel good. Right. And when was your first event for She Can Club?
I think it was in December of 2021.
Okay.
It was the first event we did.
And what was your feeling coming out of that?
It was a psychic medium group reading. We had 25 women. So not only was like, oh my gosh, under the She Can Club umbrella with the cute merch and stickers I just made, these women showed up, but also we just absolutely rocked people's worlds and changed their lives in that moment. So like the vulnerability that came in that room, that's a whole nother situation, but it was, wow, this is possible. These women wanted to be here and they're willing to trust me to create a safe space to literally just spill all of their deepest secrets in front of 25 other women. Yeah. And that's like getting women, strangers in a room and having them be that vulnerable in my space is addicting.
It's your superpower too. You do such a good job at it. What comes up for you when you think about Hilary 5-10 years ago in such the masculine energy and who you were at that point in time, you know, helping operate a $20 million revenue business annually, like you said, to now running women's groups with a psychic medium? Like, what comes up for you when you think about just like the complete switch there?
Yeah, I think back then I had to be quote masculine because I was working against so many men. I'm talking like I was their boss at 23 years old and they'd been doing this 35 years. And I walk in, here's how you use Excel. And it was just like, them calling me the worst, slamming on their door and cursing me out and just the worst situation. Yeah. But I was still like, I still cared about them and I'd still have feelings. Like I still wanted to help them no matter how much they hurt me. I'm just like, I could finally help people in a way that they want to be helped as opposed to me forcing my help onto them. Cause I know that's what's best for them. But it's mind-blowing. I still can't even like when I go get a sandwich at noon, I still can't believe that I'm not like rushing back to an office chair. And it's been 4 years.
What are some things that you do regularly, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly? I know you're not like a super, I'm going to wake up and meditate and routine person, which we love we've had a lot of conversations on the podcast about people that do that. So I kind of love that you have a different way of working that way. We have similarities of staying up really late and our brains just moving a lot. But what are some things that you do regularly, however you want to define regularly, that keep you grounded with where you've been, where you are, and where you're going? And just kind of finding gratitude in a healthy version of more.
Yeah. I think I am lucky enough to be able to spend a lot of time with my friends. I have like the ultimate girl gang supporting me. And then also I built one with She Can Club so I can support them. So just surrounding myself with women like-minded women who most of my best friends are entrepreneurs at this point. So there's a lot of hanging out during the day stuff. And that just fills my cup just to be around these women. When it comes to daily routines, I am honestly terrible at it. I'm not going to try to tell someone to, like you said, like meditate or read every day. I'm like, I can't. I started doing habit trackers for a while, but like I can't even do it. So I have a hard time telling people, I'll give you the tools, but I'm not going to be the model for how you should follow the tools I'm giving you. I just think having the right people around you, though, is super important because when I was at work and all I heard was negativity around me, it was just like bitching about employees and all that stuff. It's just so negative. But now it's like the conversations in the rooms I'm in are all about possibility and let's dream about this and what would this look like? It's just so refreshing and exciting to be around.
Now, talking about surrounding yourself with the right people, there's your friend group, there's your business friends, and then there's your partnership. And not everyone has a supportive partner, but you do happen to have a supportive partner. And I want to talk a little bit about how he shows up for you. One, I know you don't cook, so there's that. And two, just how he shows up in conversations. But something you brought up a little bit ago that I think is really important to talk about is when you kept coming to him with, I don't want to say your problems, but your verbal processing, saying like, these are the ideas I have. I'm looking for support. What do I do? And he said, you're going to have to get a business coach or a therapist. I don't know how to help you. Yeah. I think that's really, really important because someone can be supportive and it doesn't mean they know what to tell you or what you should do. And we can't expect our partners, our friends, whoever it is in your life to be our everything. They can only be one part of what we need. And, you know, I have a really close relationship with my husband too. I joke, you know, semi-dependent when you've been together for such a long time as you have as well, that you grew up together. So you see that person as like, I've made all these big life decisions with you. How would I make another one without you telling me, like, is this the right idea? Should we move forward? But when you get older and you have your separate adulthoods, you have to. You can't rely on that person to guide you for everything. But it's the same thing with friendships. If you've had a friendship for a long time, your parents or anything else. So whether it was getting a business coach or therapist, it's setting up boundaries of how you talk about things when, or just one of the things I believe you guys are good at from what I see is maybe not even limiting those conversations, but inserting more things that are outside of that. So instead of saying we're going to sit and we're going to talk business all the time, saying we can't do that, you say, okay, I'm still going to have these conversations with you. But in addition to that, we're going to go do all these other fun things. We're going to go to soccer. We're going to go out with our friends and do these things. And then it makes it so there's only a limited amount of time for those other conversations. And you don't have to necessarily say we aren't having these conversations. Has that been your approach, or what have you done to kind of limit that, you know, unrealized dependency on those conversations with each other?
Yeah. Back then when he told me therapist or business coach, which I chose business coach, by the way, it was because he couldn't grasp how I wanted more for my life. He's like, look around at what we have. We were 30 years old and we had literally everything we could possibly want in our lives. Everything, assets, finances, jobs, everything. He's like, why can't you just be happy with what we have? And I said, I don't know. There's something more in me. He's a teacher and he's so good at it. And that is his life's purpose, is to be a teacher. So he had already been fulfilled by that, but that came easy to him. He just switched careers, got a credential, and became the best at what he does. And so he never really went through that discovery process. So it's something I couldn't explain to him and he couldn't understand. So that's why it turned into, I can't help. I don't know what else to say to you.
Yeah. And I think that what you hit on is that fulfillment piece, right? Yeah. Because similar in my story, I started this mantra for myself that I think you've heard before, that gratitude doesn't negate desire, because you can have a really good life. You can have a lot of things that feel really good, and it doesn't mean that that's your end all be all. So you stepped into this purpose, you started connecting women, you found this fulfillment for yourself, but it's grown so much. So talk to me about, you got out of that first event and you got that feeling of, this is it. This is the thing I'm supposed to do. And then it became a business. So what are some of the ways that you've just like grappled with taking this fun idea into a true profitable business and growing it when it's not profitable as well? And now you have a clubhouse, coaching and support that you help people with. And now you're also helping other people create their own communities. And I
Yeah.
think it's so important to see like the growth that can happen, because when you started, you didn't know all these other things were going to unfold from it. But
Right.
now you've had all these different things. So let's talk a little bit about what She Can Club is, how people can plug into it, and also just your journey through that growth of saying,
Mhm.
and now we're going to do this. And this is what's lighting me up.
Yeah. When it did become a business, I still really struggled with money issues, meaning I didn't think I should just give it all away.
Yeah. You didn't want to charge for it because you wanted to help people. That's so common.
Yeah, that's how I did it. But 4 years or 3 years into it, you can only do that for so long. Like it's
Mhm.
not sustainable. You can't keep helping people if you're not charging money because you have to make money to be able to support people. Like I have to pay my
Yeah.
bills eventually. So I don't know. Sweet little Hillary back then, who was just traumatized by making money. But because I saw at that point, I was like, if I make money, I'm not a good person back then because of
Yeah.
the people I worked with. They weren't good people to me and they made a lot of money. So therefore I shouldn't make any money if I want to be a good person. So over time, eventually we did events. You did events with me. My focus was just serving women and not making She Can Club the Hillary show. So I was always focused on putting other women on my stage. And of course it's my business, but it wasn't like Hilary Richards wasn't the brand. So that's why I wanted you to come lead vision board parties and other
Yeah.
people support groups and then hear their stories and stuff. I almost became like a event coordinator.
So when you started finding that you were in this event coordinator role, how did you decide what you wanted to do next? Like when did you decide, okay, I'm going to bring Hillary back in because I have all this business experience
Yeah.
and I can help people. And you have a whole house now. Let's talk about the house, which I know it
Yeah.
was just an opportunity that you had that house. But let's talk about, this beautiful, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this beautiful background behind Hillary of the rooms that are just all of the vibe and the feeling that you've created now in a home where you can gather people. And now
Yeah.
you have these night events and retreats and all these different ways to connect people.
Mhm.
Would you say that it has become more than you ever expected? Was this always the plan? Was it somewhere in between?
Yeah. Up until July 2023, it was very much, I'm going to do things when I feel like doing things. Events happen when I feel like events happen. Like it was super laid back. There was no monthly meetings or schedules because I just didn't want the pressure. Like I just wanted to love it no matter what. And as soon as it started feeling like a business, like that's when things get harder. And I never wanted She Can Club to feel that way. So I think we were doing, I don't know, maybe one a month or one every other month or something, but it was super just like chill. Like it was no pressure on me. But then there was the vision board party that you led for me. It was at this venue called Epicenter and we sold out the smaller room and then I had to get the bigger room and then we sold that out. And I think that was like 75 women. And throwing events in Sonoma County is not cheap because venues are expensive. At that point, we did Glow Girl. I want to say I had thrown a 150 person blacklight dance party / we had Allison Faulkner from the Allison show. She had just written a book. So I flew her in from Utah and she was our keynote. And so it started like getting really big. And then your event sold out. And I was just like, man, if I just had a venue, I wouldn't have to overthink everything. It felt hard. And I don't like when it feels hard because then it feels like work and I didn't want it to feel like work. So then I went on this mission after that vision board party. And I said, I want my own venue. And so I started looking for warehouses to have like giant parties in. And so I got this idea to call it the Clubhouse. And it was going to be this like venue where women could come and do yoga or whatever they wanted, like a women's space. I had the contract for this 3,000 square foot warehouse in my hand. They had already approved it. I was ready to sign it. And my husband was just like really not into the idea, but I had like all my girlfriends like, yeah, do it. Like there was offices and they all we like had this ultimate girl gang warehouse and they're all like cheering me on. I'm like, it's got to be the next step. And he's just like, nah, this is not what you want for your life. Like you're doing She Can Club, but you don't want to run a venue and have to take on that overhead and all that stuff. And so he's always my voice of reason. I have a lot of good delusional big dreamers on my side in my ear.
Delusional.
He's the one that like has to pay the bills and he's very conservative and I need that in my life. It got to like the final night before I was going to sign it. And I didn't even fight him. He's like, I don't want to do this. And I said, okay. It almost was like a relief, like that he told me not to do it because I knew it had gotten really out of control. And it was like, okay, I wasn't mad. I wasn't bitter. I was just, no, I understand. But that planted the seed for the clubhouse. And so that was maybe April of 2023. Meanwhile, we owned this house, and this is where we had bought it in 2015 for my mom and my stepdad to live in, and they rented it from us because it's 5 minutes from my house, and we wanted them close for our kids. So since my stepdad had died 2 years later, my mom told me she was going to be moving out. And then I realized, I was like, oh, I've had the clubhouse this whole time. I already own it. And it's on a much smaller scale because I can't do giant parties here. But what it has done is forced me to be more intimate with my events. Where we were doing 150 person dance parties, it's now 12. And I'm actually changing lives in this house as opposed to just creating fun environments. I'm diving deep in changing women's lives.
Yeah. And you've been able to create these really intimate, safe experiences because of that. And I think the takeaway there that's so important is the dream may evolve and it may look different depending on where you're at, what space literally you're in, the house, how it looks. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to work out even better. And I think it has worked out better. You know, it would have taken years and overhead to create this big giant warehouse. Maybe that does evolve one day, but this has created another beautiful version that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Now, we have had such a good conversation. I have a couple final questions for you. We could talk all day. We're definitely going to have you come back. But before I get into my first final questions, I want to talk a little bit about how now this has evolved into you being able to support others and what you call grow a girl game. So now you've gone from creating this amazing community that you've connected women from big events to small events, helping them open up, be intimate. Some are business owners, some aren't business owners. There isn't really like one common theme with all of the women other than just they want to believe in themselves. They want to have this confidence. They want to move forward. And I think that there's a couple really important things with that. One, there's a lot of conversation and talk if someone wants to start a community or a business that you have to niche down. And you and I have had this conversation before. And, you know, Mama House Goals is niched in the sense that it's ambitious moms and they have something on their heart. She Can Club is women with something on their heart. So sure, it's not everyone in the world, but it's also very broad. It's not like women that want to become the best power lifter that are over 30. You know, it's like really focusing on this bigger group of people. And I'm sure there are coaches out there that would tell us like, you need to find a more specific group of people. Now, what I disagree with that is you'll know who you're called to support. And you are called to support a certain type of person. You can't support everyone. When I started Mama Has Goals, it was going to be a community and phone app and resource platform for all men and women. And what I realized is I couldn't support people in that way. I wanted to support moms. And I think the same thing with you is you realized you could support a certain group of people. You could support women that had this desire to be able to grow and evolve. And now that you've done that, you now have seen this new group of women that you can support in building a community. And you've also done this in a small town. We both live in kind of small towns. I even moved to an Airbnb, as you know, for a little bit to get into bigger towns where there's more of these things. But so often we hear women say, well, they don't have that where I live. Well, that doesn't exist where I live. I don't have those communities where I'm from. Well, you maybe should create it. And sometimes you have to be the one to do that, to go first. So let's talk a little bit about Grow a Girl Game, what it is, how people can join your learnings and learn from you how to create a community, and how does someone know if they should start taking action? And if they have the desire to get like-minded people together, what is the first way they could do that?
Okay, so regarding the niching down, currently She Can Club is mainly speaking to women in Sonoma County, and there's no requirement past women in Sonoma County. I was actually almost scared to say I was a business coach because I didn't want people to think it was a business networking community. And my goal was always my events need to be different enough that it can reach women where they're at, planting seeds of possibility. Because a psychic medium might reach someone, or that might have zero interest to someone else, and they want to do, you know, the motherhood
color. They want to color.
Or art craft night or game night, or I did all these different types of events to reach women where they're at, to just get in the room. Because once they were in the room, they're like, oh, I get it now. And then they become like big fans and they want to come to all the She Can Club events. But I couldn't just host the same event over and over again because I need to reach them. So through that, it's learning from what I've done with She Can Club for 3 years, but like a lot of business strategy that I don't think people even consider that I consider when I do things. Also, the way I gather women and the way I speak to them to make sure that women know that they should come alone to these events, that I encourage them to come alone and that they can DM me ahead of time if they need a cheerleader, or I'll set them up with a friend behind the scenes. There's just like a lot that goes into it. Or before our vision board party that you sold out, I started in my DMs with a group of my core friends who were coming. I called it a She Can Club cheer squad. And I said, okay, 15 of you know each other. I don't want anybody to be sitting alone because I've encouraged the other 60 women to come alone. You guys, I can't talk to everyone at all times. I need you guys to be in the group talking to people, make them feel welcome. And so just stuff like that that I have learned to do, or business strategy I just know to do, that now I just want to package it all up and teach people how to do this in their own community, because I can't be everywhere. So I want to help women who have the desire to create this community. They're not necessarily already community leaders. And maybe they're like, no, there's no way I can do that. But like, I used to think that too. And then just slowly but surely, whether it's a group of fitness, it starts at a fitness class. That's where my first few people came from. It's my high fitness class or church group or moms on the playground. There's women all around you. I just want to help those women learn how to create communities within their own community. And then just like what happened to me, you just see where it goes. And so I started a new Instagram called Grow a Girl Gang with the goal, I'm just going to put out as much content as I can just to teach women how to do this and learn from my mistakes or learn from what I've learned and encourage women just to start. And if it's not right for them, fail fast.
Yeah. You know, there's energy, time, money. We say those are like the constants in anyone's life, right? Everyone has something in their life connected to energy, time, and money. I think that a fourth that could be introduced to that is community. We all have community in our life in some way. And whether it's already the kids that your kids go to school with, or the other parents, or the people you work with, or the friends that you have, or this new community you want to cultivate that doesn't exist yet, we all have community and need community in our lives. And it can be related to anything. Now, there's also any business. I've not met a business yet or heard of a business yet that doesn't benefit from community within their clients and customers. So there's the personal aspect, the professional aspect that's so important, and then what it brings out in us. So community is so important and good for everyone. So what would you tell someone? I know that you hear this all the time. I hear this all the time from women. I'm so lonely. I don't have any good mom friends. I am literally a part of a Facebook group that is called Find Mom Friends or something like that. And people post every single day looking for mom friends. They post every single day looking for someone. And here's the thing that I think is tricky is it's finding your people. But that starts with creating your community in your way. So like we were talking about, where it isn't necessarily super niche down, it can be broad. What are some of the ways that someone can know if a community is for them? We're talking about the business strategy and the messaging that you share. If someone does see someone post something, how do they let themselves go into an environment that doesn't feel as good?
First of all, you have to try. You just have to go, which is the hardest part. Like I often feel like I'm just dragging these strangers from the internet out of their houses for just walk through the door. That's the hardest thing to get women to come to She Can Club events, is just for them to get in the door. And once they're there, they're like, oh, I get it now. And then they feel this place is meant for me. But whether that's going to meet women at a fitness group or church group, or go on your local neighborhood Facebook group and say, does anyone want to do a book club with me? Like you don't have to make money doing this at first. You need to just network and find people and put yourself out there and know that everybody's probably feeling very similar to you. And so I think that's just the hardest part that I've learned so far, is just getting people to step out of their comfort zone and just get in the room, no matter what room it is. Try different rooms, reach out, start a bunco group or find one. In my She Can Club account, we started all these niched mom groups because I kept seeing on Facebook that women are like, how do you make mom friends? So I started one for every town in our county. And so they're hyper local to each of those women. And man, that blew up. This post blew up and everyone's like, oh, I want to be in this group. I want to be in this group. And so now there's like baby moms or moms of toddlers or single moms or women going through divorce. And I just have all these communities in DMs, but it's like a more private conversation. So I think you just have
Yeah.
to find your people. You can't just wait for someone to knock on your door.
Yeah. You raise your hand. And even if, like you're saying, that's commenting on a post or just saying yes for one event or one thing. Now, before I get into a couple of final questions, you have the clubhouse and now you have this Grow a Girl game. You have two super exciting things going on right now. But what would you say is lighting you up right now or a goal that you're really excited about?
So She Can Club morphed into focusing on the clubhouse because the clubhouse is an Airbnb also. And so that kind of shifted in the past few months. My attention has shifted from She Can Club to filling this house with Airbnb guests. But my next shift is going to be Grow Girl Gang. And that is really exciting to me. I have 4 Instagrams. So my personal Instagram is for business coaching. And then She Can Club is for local community events. And then the clubhouse is for my Airbnb. And that's renting to women who want to do retreats or sound baths or whatever they want to do here from all over the world. And then Girl Gang is going to be my 4th one. So I'm super lit up.
Amazing. And we're going to link all of that down below. And that's the best way to connect with you, right? Is through Instagram. So go connect with whichever Instagram account lights you up and you want to be a part of. What advice would you give someone that's listening to this? And I think that there's people probably in 2 boats, maybe 3. One is, wow, that girl is so inspiring. She's done a lot of cool things. Good for her. There's that person. Then there's the other person that's maybe listening and they're like, gosh, I want to do that, but I have so many things going on already right now. And then the third person that is like already doing it and they want to take it to the next level and find more people like you to connect with. So let's go back to the person that's like the good for you person, because no shame if you're listening and this is you, but it happens to the best of us where you're kind of like almost jealous or you're looking at someone and you're like, well, they don't know why I couldn't do that type of thing. What advice would you give to that person to take whatever the next step is for them, but they're sitting in their own shish right now?
Well, I want to acknowledge those people that I know I have an immense amount of privilege to be able to get me to this point. I have a husband whose job pays for my health care and who's home and present. And there's a lot of reasons why someone wouldn't be able to do what I do. So I acknowledge that and I honor that. But when I was working full time, I was that person watching all these people online going, I'm never going to do that. And it drives me crazy and makes me depressed. But I think deep down, I was like, but what if I could? And so I always was taking, in hindsight, I was always taking small steps. I was still working full time with babies and toddlers at home, but I'd watch a YouTube video to fall asleep, or I'd follow a business coach to get inspired, or there's all these tiny steps, or whether I wrote down manifestation affirmations or something. I think just if it's meant for you, it will happen eventually, and like to trust the timing of your life. And I never want to tell women like, but you're not happy, but there's so much more to life, because that's my opinion, my judgment of their life. So maybe they are happy and entrepreneurship's not for them, which I understand. But if they like do feel that like slight bit of jealousy, oh, there's no way, like good for her, but whatever. If it's on your heart, you have to try. You have to just take one tiny step at a time.
And I think whatever that is like what's so important, right? It doesn't have to be business. It could be, like you said, meeting up with some friends for a book club. If that's what you want to do, then do it. And so that takes us to our next group of people, the people that do have that feeling that they want to do it. And I think you answered the question there. It's take one small step at a time. What is the very first step that you would recommend that they take when they get off of this podcast?
Before I even knew this was possible for my life, I just absorbed so much information from podcasts and audiobooks, like self-help development, because I had to believe that it was possible for myself first. Like I didn't have a business plan, or I didn't know what made for more definition was, but I was listening to my Allison Faulkner, who eventually came to my event. Like that was a full circle, because she was the first kind of like life coach podcast that I had listened to in 2017. Whether it's the right people you follow on Instagram, follow people who inspire you, or get in the space with people who inspire you, so you can start believing yourself of what's part of your bigger purpose, like that it's possible for you.
Yeah. Taking that first step of putting positive things into your brain, whatever positive means to you, where you want to go. Okay. And then our last group of people, the people that are maybe already doing something. They're either creating community in some way, or they've started a side hustle or a business, whatever that more first step was for them, but they want to take it up a notch and they want to get in a space like with people just like you. what is the way that you would connect with people a step up? You've done this where we were just talking about how you meet on Zoom calls, even with 2 other business owners, like informally. What are ways that you can get with people that are at that higher level that you want to bring yourself up and be in that space?
Yeah. Sliding into people's DMs does work. It really does.
Yeah, full circle. That's how we started this.
If the person doesn't reciprocate, then they're not the right person for you, and you don't want to surround yourself with people like that. So
caveat is think about how you word that DM, right? Don't just go into a DM and be like, hey, I want to learn from you. Let's jump on Zoom for free. But don't do it that way. But word it from a good place. And definitely, I just want to echo that. Slide into people's DMs. The first person that business coached me for free, I slid into their DMs, and no, I didn't word it that way. I just asked a question. And I think that's what's really important. Ask questions about that person, not about what you need, right? Not, hey, what was the number one business strategy that helped you grow? But I just asked simply, I said, hey, I'm just curious. Like mine was actually probably more off script. But I think for you, you build like the 2 people I know we're specifically talking about, you've just built friendships with.
Right. Yeah. And I slid into Emily's DMs. Emily Rochelle, and that's how our relationship was created. But you know what? If I'm being totally honest, now that I have a platform that people tend to find me immediately and want to use me, not in a bad way. They're like, I need to grow my business, and She Can Club has a hyper local following, and therefore I need to use that. Yeah. I don't like that. It feels not good from me on my standpoint. But if I see somebody engaging with all of my content and responding to my stories and paying the $35 to come to a She Can Club event,
they've invested in you in some way, right?
Yeah. And so once I can create a relationship with these people, then I will do anything for them. But if you just cold DM and ask me for something, I probably won't even respond. All I need to do is meet you once and see your personality. Be like, okay, here you go. I'll promote you, whatever it takes. So I think engaging with people, Facebook groups too. Like if you want to meet local people, is there posts on if there's a neighborhood Facebook group or something, or a citywide Facebook group? Like that's how I've met a ton of people and created relationships that way also.
Hilary, this was such a good conversation. I could talk to you for hours. Always can. I just love what you're doing. I love that you're bringing this community forward in so many different ways. And I love that now you're going to help other people learn how to do it too. And I just can't wait to see where She Can and Grow a Girl Gain and everything grows from the clubhouse to the community and everything beyond. So thank you for going first. Thank you for stepping into that uncomfortable action and moving through your journey and story. And I bet that high school Hilary that we talked about at the beginning would be so proud of you, but you had to go through all those transitions to get here. And I think that's so important. And like how cool for your kids to watch you do this too. We'll definitely have you back. Is there any last piece of advice or wisdom that you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
I always tell people what's the best that can happen. If you're feeling scared to walk into that room or that fitness class for the first time, what's the best that can happen? You might just find your new best friend. Remind yourself what's the best that can happen and then just do it.
There you go, mamas. What's the best that can happen? You, your story, and what you have to offer this world fills me up. I want to meet you. Join me on Instagram at @ThisIsKelseySmith and let's create a ripple effect for mamas with goals. Together is better.